Gaming Build presents 15 damn easy bosses in really difficult games. The masochists among us gamers go to games looking for something to push us a bit, challenge what we've learned, and figure out a game's mechanics, and that feeling after we have conquered that tough boss is, well, simply undescribable. Many series from Mega Man to Dark Souls have made their name on difficulty, but every once in a while, even those games meant to be challenging have some cracks in their armor where they kind of just let us down. Here are some of those times, but please don't forget to share your own easy bosses in hard games in the comment section below. Yu Yevon, Final Fantasy X. A final boss is supposed to be the ultimate test of your skill and knowledge, and Final Fantasy X does a good job of that right up until the final boss with Yu Yevon. The battle against this spirit is technically impossible to lose, with auto life automatically applied against your party. His own attacks cannot KO your own party, and on top of that, cause himself recoil damage. He can heal, but most status effects will cripple that in some fashion, making his defeat more of a matter of time than a matter of skill. The Wall, Contra 1987. Contra gives the two Rambo knockoffs a great excuse to shoot their way through a jungle infested by evil soldiers, turrets, and exploding bridges. This challenge of dexterity must finish off with a suitable boss battle, right? Well, how about you stand a safe distance away and shoot at a wall for a second? Larry's Lament, Super Meat Boy. Not much time is spent explaining what the destroyed city of Super Meat Boy is when you find the World 5 boss, Larry's Lament. But when you do find him, the trio of Larrys are simple worm creatures without much to really challenge you outside of figuring out how easy you can bait them to leap into nearby grinders. The Witch of Hemwick, Bloodborne. The Witch of Hemwick is a deceptive fight within the Gothic Souls offshoot Bloodborne by sheer virtue of misdirection. The mobs summoned by this witch are of no real consequence or threat to a hunter by the time they've made it through to her, but they literally don't need to be attacked at all. Killing the Witch of Hemwick is a matter of tracking her down a few times in the most nightmare-inducing game of whack-a-mole we've seen, which is quite disappointing for the series, though not unique. Deacons of the Deep, Dark Souls 3. The Deacons of the Deep inhabit the Church of the Deep within Dark Souls 3 and try to take out the Ashen One based on sheer numbers. The first phase is simply not being surrounded while you chase around the soul of the massive group trying to dogpile you, while the second phase sees the player having to play follow the leader to leave open the main deacon, with the main concern being a few spellcasters. Pinwheel, Dark Souls. Hiding in the depths of the catacombs, the original gimme boss of the Dark Souls series is Pinwheel, a necromancer who could end up cloning himself a dozen times to overwhelm the player. Could. The problem with Pinwheel is that in a game where patience and considered strategy is rewarded, by rushing in and keeping the pressure on, Pinwheel drops like a fly thanks to his low health, and the stagger keeping his gimmick from activating. Werner Werman, Cuphead. The mini mooks of Cuphead are all ready for a dandy old row with them mugs, but some of them can put up a far better fight than others. A clear homage to Tom and Jerry, Werner Werman begins with Cuphead throwing out a few fisticuffs with Werner in his mechanized can, though by this late in the game his ride is giving out way too many long cues to see every attack coming. Later, when an enormous cat crashes the battle, the arena opens wide up and gives the player tons of room to dodge around very predictable attacks. Thunderbird, Zelda 2: The Adventures of Link. For what is ultimately the penultimate boss of the game, Thunderbird from Black Sheep Entry Zelda 2 doesn't really require a ton of effort. While it seems fitting that he's completely invulnerable without knowing to cast Thunder first, making the player use brains over brawn as a core staple of the series, once that gimmick is out of the way, there's nothing much to the beaked bully outside of slashing away and tanking a few cheap fireballs. Shredder, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles NES 1989. The evil Shredder didn't get to the top of the Foot Clan through his brains, it seems. The classic TMNT game on the NES has its choke points like the dam, but when it comes to the final boss, players can easily knock him to the bottom, stand on top, and Shredder will be taken in by the awesome turtle power of standing completely still while rebuffing his repeated leaps with a lazy swing of the weapon. Dragon, Super Metroid. At the tail end of the depths of Meridia, the deep-sea submerged labs of the space pirates on the planet Zebes, Samus ends up engaging Dragon. The terrible underwater lieutenant of the pirates has to be taken down to complete this mission, but even without the quick kill strategy found at the sides of the arena, the overgrown prawn is nothing compared to the intricate maze you just ventured through to even find this fight. King Knight, Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight makes no bones about wanting to be NES hard, with the obvious inspirations taken from classics like Super Mario Bros. 3, DuckTales, and Mega Man. Much like the Blue Bomber though, one of the bosses seems almost deliberately designed to be a starting point and a bit of a pushover. King Knight got that unfortunate duty in Shovel Knight, leaving the decadent dandy to prance around his arena while posing little to no threat. Honda Tadakatsu, Nioh. Two honorable samurai facing off in a pitched battle, the best man to win. That's the image that Nioh would have you portray for this fight against the yokai Honda Tadakatsu based off of the historical figure. While players can take the hard way and take him on one-on-one, a bit of observation of your arena will reveal 3 purple crystals that are easily shattered. The best way to win is to completely ignore Honda and go take care of those, felling him without even laying your blade on him. The Covetous Demon, Dark Souls 2. The slothful, covetous demon guards the end of Harvest Valley in Dark Souls 2 and generally isn't very quick on its feet, likely a nod to its gluttonous backstory. The predictable attacks with long lead times and wide openings after being dodged make for a painless fight and another gimme for the series. Ganon Final Boss, Both Forms, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. The unforgiving wilds of the latest Zelda entry never quite feel safe no matter how equipped you are, as even a fully armored and stocked Link needs to play it smart to avoid getting his elven face turned to mush by the laser beams of the corrupt guardians that have infested the decrepit remains of Hyrule Castle. Once you break through those defenses and find Calamity Ganon at the central keep, it soon becomes apparent that most of the work is done, especially if you went through each beast as the game expects you to. With half of the health bar gone before the battle even begins, the first form will fall with little effort, followed by a second form out on Hyrule Field that is a few steps away from being a cutscene when the wind-up Dark Beast Ganon takes to attack. Frankenstein, Super Castlevania 4. Castlevania has always been a series that made you work for each and every step you took, and Super Castlevania 4 on the SNES was no different, despite the new 8-directional whipping. By the end of the grueling Stage 8, quite a ways and probably several continues into the titular Castlevania, the player comes against Frankenstein's monster itself. In a complete reversal of the trek through his stage needing players to act quickly and move with purpose, the lumbering behemoth can be felled with standing in a single spot and occasionally sniping his projectiles from above you without fear of reprisal. Poor Frankenstein could do nothing but watch us whip. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from Gaming Bolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.